Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network, on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan, and as always, so glad to have you along with us as we spend the next 3 hours talking about this outdoor lifestyle that we love so much, the history and tradition of hunting and fishing and shooting and trapping, wildlife issues, conservation issues, wild game cooking, all things outdoors, primarily here in the great state of Michigan. It's something that many of us think about and talk about all the time. If you are part of this, and I hate the word community, if you are part of this group, you know what I mean. But I hear every week I hear from people who say, Avery, I don't hunt or fish, but I listen to your show and I find it interesting and I enjoy your conversations with your guests. And you know what? I think that's the biggest compliment I can get. When non-hunters and anglers listen to the show and enjoy it, that's wonderful. Because we want as many people as possible in this state to be aware of what it is that we are doing and be aware of why we are doing it. Number one, yeah, it's fun. It's fun to go hunting and fishing. There's no doubt about that. It is fun to harvest fish and wild game to help feed our families. That's a basic premise of life. But also, we want people to know that our dollars, our license fees, the money we spend on gear and equipment, which can add up, that this all goes for a good cause. So, yes, we welcome the non-hunters and anglers. So Labor Day weekend this weekend. I don't know how it happened. I don't know where it came from, but it did. And it really kind of marks the unofficial end of summer. But in my mind, okay, I'm kind of ready for summer to be gone. In my mind, this was not the best summer ever. It got off to a late start. I mean, we watched my granddaughter's softball games this late spring, early summer, probably wearing winter coats more than we did wearing shorts. And then when it got warm, it came in with a vengeance. It felt like we were living in the Arizona desert, but with humidity. So I'm glad to see it gone. The days are getting shorter. Have you noticed how much shorter? I feel like we've lost about an hour of daylight at the end of the day now. But the cooler temperatures, oh my word, don't they feel good? No humidity, cooler temps, a little chill in the air. I love it. I think the best time of the year is coming up. We are getting ready to get busy here in Michigan. It's starting to happen now. The early goose season starts, Monday? Then the Michigan bear season right behind that. Small game season next. The youth hunt coming up behind that. Some great fall fishing. I mean, there's so much going on this time of year. Looking at the calendar, Jay's anniversary sale is the weekend of the 20th. I will be at Jay's Clare store along with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives, presenting a check to Andrew Cumptus of Outdoor Driven, the first installment of the proceeds from the Avery signature Rapid River knife. So the anniversary sale is that weekend. Then the 24th, Wednesday the 24th, we have a Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack Restaurant, the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant in West Branch. Call 989-343-0892 for reservations, 989-343-0892 for reservations. I will have one of the limited edition Mike Avery signature knives to give away that night. Somebody joining us that night will get one of those knives. Plus, we will have some other things to give away as well. A couple of special guests that night. Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone will be there. Feel free to come and pick Lance's brain. Andrew Cumptus of Outdoor Driven as well. Plus, I think hopefully somebody there from Jay's, maybe Killer Food Plots, Mr. Angler Quest. We'll see who can make it. I know Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand can't, but Nick's going to join us here on the radio show in just a few minutes. So it's all good. It's all good. 989-343-0892 for reservations. Okay, I want to follow up one last time on my bear hunt. I talked about this story ad nauseum last week. The gist of it is I shot a bear, didn't recover it. It hurts to talk about it. But a couple of follow-up points on this. We were on blood. We stayed on blood. That's why we kept pushing the animal. If looking back on it, I would have done the same thing at this because that's the best information we had. 2020 hindsight, we should have backed out. But people were saying, why didn't you call it a tracking dog? Well, we didn't have any tracking dogs. But then as a follow-up to that, somebody sent me an email and said, hey, what about the concept of one of these thermal imaging scopes? Would that help recover your animal? And I thought, well, maybe. So I reached out to a friend of mine, Scott, who is a hardcore nighttime predator hunter, a coyote hunter, and he's got thermal imaging optics. And I said, Scott, could we have used that tool to recover that animal? He said, absolutely. He said, I'm surprised nobody up there had one. Absolutely. You could have used that tool at nighttime or the next morning, because what they do is they show a heat signature. Because here's the interesting part. Somebody said if you've got these dialed in right away and you get on the track quick enough, you can actually see the tracks where the animal stepped on the ground. So had we had one of those two tools, maybe things would have turned out differently. But again, just something to learn from, something to keep in mind. Another thing I wanted to bring up from that hunt that I didn't bring up last week. OnX. It is, how would I describe it? It's an app, it's a website, it's a tool for hunters that shows you property lines, property owners, which I'm thinking downstate here now in Michigan, right? You can see, okay, where's the state land? Where's the private land? Who owns this piece of property? Who would I ask permission for if I had an animal go over into their property? It's very, very valuable. I am not associated with those guys. I do not have an advertising agreement partnership with those guys. I wish I did. It is probably the most valuable scouting and hunting digital tool that I have. I mean, I've used Google Maps in the past. I've used several other waypoint management programs. But what I did was I ended up exporting all of my waypoints, all of my data, I've got waypoints from Africa, Alaska, Kansas. Not that I'll ever go there again, but it's just kind of fun to look back on them. I exported them all into OnX. I used OnX on that bear hunt, number one, to make a track into my bear bait so I could find it again. But also then, when we were tracking this animal in the very, very thick Ontario bush after dark, I had my phone in my pocket. I had OnX opened on my phone, and I had started a track. Now, even though there wasn't a cell signal there, I still had the map on my phone, and it made a trail. It made a trail. Every little turn we took, every little up and down, every left and right, it followed us. And then I made a waypoint on the last blood that we could come back to the next morning. You talk about a tool that is just crazy valuable, either up north in the wilderness or downstate where there are different property lines ever. OnX. Again, no affiliation with them. I think they'd be a nice company to partner with, but OnX is a great, great tool. Okay. Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack. I mentioned Lance Valentine's going to join us. Andrew Cumptus is going to join us. We're going to give away a Rapid River knife, 989-343-0892. For reservations, 989-343-0892. The Rapid River knives, the Avery signature, they're selling very, very well. If you would like one, go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. That's rapidriverknifeworks.com. Or stop by the store on US 2 just east of Rapid River. I'm pushing this knife not just because I pretty much designed it with, in cooperation with Chris Durson of Rapid River, But the proceeds from this knife are going to a group called Outdoor Driven to get veterans and first responders in the outdoors. Chris isn't making any money on it. I'm not making any money on it. So, again, I'm glad to see us making some money for a very good cause. Now, let's see, RapidRiverKnifeWorks.com or the store. Coming up on this week's radio show, Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand will join me after the break. Nick was on a recent sturgeon fishing adventure. Plus, we'll talk about the company, some new products. Speaking of new products, Brad Dupuie of Angler Quest follows Nick. I was at their dealer show last week. I walked in the door at Linwood Beach Marina, and I was immediately greeted with 2 new models for 2026 of Angler Quest. We'll talk with Brad about that. Then Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews has a promo of their big outdoor weekend at the Eastern Michigan Fairgrounds in Imlay City coming up next weekend. In hour number 2, the Michigan elk season is off to a good start. We will talk with elk hunting guide Vance Gawel about that. Then Scott Buttrick on long-range accurate shooting of 22s. You don't need a 350, you don't need one of these big guns that Paul Phillips was talking about last week. You can use a 22, obviously much shorter range, but how cool is that? And then in our third hour, Glenn Alfieri of GK Calls talks about the early goose season that starts Monday, and then we'll wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dave Minar. So it's going to be a busy show, going to be a great show. I'm so glad you're with us. My name is Mike Avery. This is Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Port Huron, WPHM, 1380 AM. Let's go to Alpena, WZTK, 105.7 FM. And then north of the bridge, just go to Iron Mountain, WMIQ, 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Linwood Beach Marina and Campground. Linwood Beach can be your year-round Saginaw Bay fishing and waterfowl hunting destination. Also, your Mid-Michigan Angler Quest headquarters. If you are going to be fishing this fall for jumbo perch or walleye, Linwood Beach Marina is a great base of operations. If you are going to be calling it quits for your fall hunting season, Linwood Beach is also a great place to work with because they can get your boat out of the water. They can get it winterized. They can get it shrink wrapped if you want. Now, I know it's a little early to start thinking that direction, but when it does come time, think about Linwood Beach Marina, linwoodbeachmarina.com. I was talking before the break about my calendar, and I mentioned the Wednesday Night Live at the Lumberjack on the 24th. I mentioned the Jay's Anniversary Sale on the 20th, but I forgot about the next event coming up. Real quick, the Forward Corporation is having their anniversary celebration, and I will be at the West Branch facility on the 5th, Friday the 5th. So if you want, come on by and say hi there as well. Here in the studio today, we are enjoying Michigan brand snacks. We have my favorite, peppercorn smoked beef. We have honey glazed smoked turkey. We do not have my new favorite, which is Jack and Snack, which is just the best thing ever I think Michigan brand has put in a product. My friend Nick Grillo is one of the guys behind Michigan Brand. It's a Michigan-based family-owned company owned by the Grillo family. But the thing about the Grillos is, aside from being excellent business people, they are hardcore hunters and anglers. And every time I talk with Nick, it seems like he's been on a new adventure. This time is no exception as he joins us on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Nick, welcome back, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Mike. Good. How are you doing today?
I am doing wonderful. Thank you for these snacks. These are left over from my turkey hunt. I enjoyed them up north, and now we're enjoying them in the studio. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But tell me about your most recent fishing adventure. Last time we talked to you, you were jigging up lake trout in northern Lake Michigan. Now you headed south after even bigger fish.
Yep. So went down to Lake St. Clair and did some lake sturgeon fishing. And as you said, definitely a bigger fish.
Were you in the lake or in the river, Nick?
So we were in the river, yep. We were in the St. Clair River. We started at about like 4 in the afternoon, and it was a Saturday evening, so the boat traffic was still pretty nuts, being summer crowds and everything. So I know that's a big part of the reason why people fish for them at night. And I got to say, it would have helped if we waited a little later. There was boat after boat, wake after wake. It was pretty intense, yeah.
So what was it? The traffic? Did you worry about getting hit, or was it the wake the boats were throwing that was the main problem?
Honestly, both. There was a couple times where a couple people got pretty close, a lot closer for comfort, and they were full on board. And it's like, good thing we didn't have our rods, cast out any farther than they did. We had a couple heavy weights that were keeping our baits down, like off the side of the boat, so they weren't right behind the boat, but we weren't casting them out too far, kind of for that reason, because the boat traffic. So,
Wow.
So yeah, we were like, well, that's another reason to wait till September, October too, when the boat traffic dies down and everybody's back to school or taking their boats off the water. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, you have fished down there quite a bit, if I remember right, previously with guides and gotten some really nice fish. Was this your first trip down there on your own, Nick?
It was, yep. So I've gone down, I think 2 or 3 years ago with a buddy, but this was the first time we took our boat down and kind of did everything 100% ourselves. And like you said, we have gone down a few times with charters, had great experiences, don't get me wrong. And I was lucky enough for my first sturgeon I've ever caught. It was a 69.5-inch sturgeon. It was estimated, because we measured the girth as well, and it was estimated to be between a 70 and 80-year-old fish. And so it's like, how are you ever going to top that? But every year, I've already seen a couple people catch 70 to 72 inches this year.
Wow.
So it's pretty amazing, yeah.
What is it like to catch a fish that size?
Oh, intense. Backbreaking is a good word, because I remember that fight particularly took 50 minutes. We timed it. And you hear about it, but until you experience it yourself, it's life-changing. Seeing a fish of that caliber jump clear out of the water. My fish jumped 3 times that night. We caught him right before dark, but obviously with that long of a fight, it ended up being in the pitch dark by the time we netted him. But yeah, we saw him clear the water 3 times. And even this last fishing trip this last weekend, we didn't see any until dark, but as soon as the wind died down and the boat traffic died down, I bet you we saw 15 different sturgeon jump clear out of the water.
Oh,
and
crazy.
It was amazing.
That is
Just
so cool.
Silhouettes. We saw a couple, within 30 to 40 yards of the boat jumped, and it's like, holy cow, there's one right there. And then we would hear splashes and look over, and we'd see their wake, and we're like, that one was right in front of our boat. So we were definitely in the sturgeon area, but
wow.
Yeah, we missed a lot of bites, so I'm still kind of getting the hang of it. But we went through a lot of crawlers. That's what we were using, some night crawlers, and we actually caught a lot of different species. I think it was 7 we ended up with. We even caught a walleye.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
Well, that's such a fish factory down there. The St. Clair River and Lake St. Clair are just wonderful bodies of water. You mentioned, too, that this first trip when you were out with the captain, and the fish came, you brought them to the boat in the dark. That's got to be kind of interesting, too, because you're bringing this giant prehistoric fish to the side of the boat in the darkness. That alone is a pretty intense experience, I got to believe.
Very true, yeah. And it was... like we saw him jump, like I said, so we knew it was that caliber of fish. So of course you're sitting there huffing and puffing because of working and fighting this fish, but then your adrenaline's going crazy, your heart's racing because you want to land this fish and you want that opportunity to put your hands on a monster like that. And then you get him next to the boat, and he finally comes up next to the boat, and you're like, it's as long as the stinking boat. And then you got to try to think. And that was what I was very happy with going with some guides for these first couple trips, because I learned about using a cradle, how to handle these fish, how to, even just as simple as that, as lifting it into the boat. Like, I mean, if you go down there with just your little, walleye net or anything like that, what are you going to do, There's only so much you can do if you try to, especially if you're only like you and one other person, you got 100-pound fish, So I learned a lot from going with those guides, and that's what I like to do, and experience it that way and learn from these experts. And yeah.
So this first trip on your own with you and your buddy, this first trip in your boat, then what was that experience like? Did you feel, okay, I've been out here a couple times, I basically know what to do, or were you still feeling a little green?
Both. I felt great in the daylight, and then once it got dark, there's lots of tricks. I was trying the glow sticks on the end of the rod so I could see the bites, and we had spotlights, like on our heads. We had headlamps. I even had like a big work light that we put on the boat to lighten up, but that helped a lot for lighting the deck, but I was having a lot of hard time seeing the bites, so we ended up just putting only 2 rods out each, and we were actually holding one, and then we had one in the rod holder, and we actually put our thumb on that one so we could feel the bite if there was, because we were missing a lot of bites, like I said. And it might have been some of the small fish, like I mentioned, all those species. We even caught a couple of suckers. So it could have been anything like that, just sitting there chowing on our worms, and we weren't getting big enough bites.
Or it could have been a 5-foot sturgeon.
So there was parts like that where, exactly, that's what we kept telling ourselves. That was that big one that jumped, and we didn't even see the bite.
All right, Nick.
Yeah, that's where I definitely felt green still.
It sounds like a riot. I want to switch gears on you because we're going into the fall hunting season as well. We have tried to let people know every year. I always say Michigan brand is your source for all things snack. Jerkies, hunter sausage, Mike Avery sticks, the new Jack and Snack, which I absolutely love. But also you do some processing of wild game, but there's a caveat here. You can't just bring your deer carcass into Michigan brand anymore, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. Those days are unfortunately long and gone. We did that for years, but we still do the same processing as far as your jerky, your hams. You can even have a venison ham turned into with our ham recipe, and you can take that up to deer camp. We have a lot of guys that do that where they shoot one in early season in bow, and they'll get a venison ham made, and then they'll take it up to rifle camp for a rifle opener, and they'll have a venison ham for their camp opener. But sausage, jerky, yep, we do that all still. So the only thing is you have to have it off the bone. We're not allowed to have any carcasses like you mentioned. So if you bone it out, you don't even have to trim it up. You can just literally take a big chunk off the bone and bring it in. We'll weigh it up and take it from there.
Nice. And tell me about this Jack and Snack. I told you I love the jerkies, I love the hunter sticks, but this Jack and Snack really got my attention. How did you guys come up with this idea?
Oh yeah, so I'm surprised we haven't crossed it with you before, because we have done it for years.
Really?
We've done it since. I guess I can't even say if we've done it since the early 2000s, but we have done it for a while. And so it's our venison snack stick product that we sell our snack sticks, and this is the same snack sticks that you would have if you brought in your deer meat and had it made into snack sticks. But what we do is we cut them up into little bite-sized pieces, and then we buy they're called horns, but we buy big horns of cheese, and then we cube those up as well. So that way you're getting a bite-sized piece of a snack stick, and you're getting a bite-sized piece of a cheese, and we throw them all in the same bag, and poof, you have Jack and Snack. So
that's perfect.
It's kind of the perfect road snack. Yeah,
it really is.
Can't ask for more.
It is the perfect snack. The website, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. If you use the promo code Mike20, you get 20% off your order. Also, Nick, there is a store locator function there. People say, where do I find Michigan Brand? If you go to michiganbrand.net and you put in your zip code, you can find where that is. So keep up the good work, my friend. I can't wait to hear about your next adventure. I will continue to enjoy my Michigan Brand snacks, and you and I will stay in touch.
Sounds great, Mike. Thank you.
All right, Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand, michiganbrand.net, michiganbrand.net. We'll take a break. When we come back, from Michigan Brand to a Michigan Brand, Angler Quest pontoons with Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie. 2 new models for 26. And then we'll wrap up this first hour with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Battle Creek on WBCK 95.3 FM. You can hear us in Ludington on News 97.98, 98.7 WLDN, and you can hear us north of the bridge in Marquette, WDMJ 1320 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Versa Skins. Just change your skin for the season you're in. Why buy a bunch of different sets of expensive hunting clothes when you can buy one good quality set, snap on and zip on an outer shell of a different pattern, different camo pattern, different color? If you need big sizes, 4, 5, 6X, Versa Skins can help you out. If you're a saddle hunter, Versa Skins makes jackets specifically for saddle hunting. Go to the website versaskins.com or go to amazon.com, do a search for Versa Skins brand, and you'll see what I mean. Paul Perrone, company owner, is at the big Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend next weekend in Imlay City, so you can check him out in person. Versa Skins, change your skin for the season you're in. I told you that last week I was at the dealer show for Angler Quest pontoons, and you know I am a huge fan of Angler Quest pontoons. I am also a huge fan of the man behind Angler Quest, Mr. Angler Quest, Brad Dupuie. I think he's just a stand-up guy, a hardworking guy, a visionary, an excellent angler, and a good friend of mine. And he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Brad, welcome back. How have you been?
I have been good, Mike. I'm always happy to talk to you and talk about Angler Quest, and things are going good. And, hey, the summer's winding down, it looks like.
It is, and these cooler temperatures feel great, don't they?
It was 48 degrees at my house this morning, and, wow, if that doesn't make you think about hunting, I don't know what will.
I walked in the door there at Linwood Beach Marina, and I was immediately greeted with 2 new models for 2026. Tell me about those, Brad.
Yeah, we've got a couple different things that we're adding to the lineup. A new T-Top series, which is a fish and cruise series, as I call it. This boat has been around in the previous life of Angler Quest, and, you know, it really offers... The traction there is 360-degree fishability, no obstructions from a bimini and the bimini frame itself. And I myself, the one that you saw, the T-Top boat, I'll be running myself here throughout the rest of this year and early next year. And, you know, it is the FS model, which stands for forward-facing sonar, and live scoping and really doing something a little different is what that boat is about. So I'm excited to get into that world and run that boat. It's a 24-footer with a 225 Mercury. You were also greeted by a new line that is kind of piggybacking off of the Panfish series called the Leisure Quest series. And that boat is even smaller in size, 13 and 15 foot in length, kind of really going after that electric-only market, really small impoundment market. You know, I've just got a lot of dealers who are asking for such a vessel, and I have a lot of experience in doing those in the past. So another really cool addition to the new Angler Quest lineup for 2026.
The one boat, well, one of the boats I was looking at had a little 20-horse outboard on it, and I said, Brad, is that enough? And you said, no, 20 horse on that boat is more than enough. So I look at that as a quality boat, but something that's really inexpensive. If you don't need a big water triple tube boat, if you're just looking to, you know, tool around on your smaller inland lake, either fishing or just having fun, I think you're going to sell a bunch of those.
I believe I will, too. The price point is really, really nice. When you start talking a little 13 or a little 15 footer with a 20 horse, you can easily be under that $25,000 mark with a trailer. So if a person, a lot of times, a lot of dealers will sell a boat to a particular person and don't even have a trailer. They deliver it for the spring and then pull it out for the fall. Very common thing. And you're looking at a little 9.9 on a 13 or 15, you could probably be right in that $20,000 mark. So that's a very attractive thing in the market that we're in. And there are just a ton of little small lakes that are really glorified ponds, if you will, that either have size restrictions of boats, have electric-only applications, or just are very small bodies of water that people don't need a bigger boat. So it's a boat that I'm putting out there to hopefully help add to the lineup and keep things rolling.
I'm really interested in that T-top and your experiences with it this fall. It's kind of I don't want to say a change in direction from the trolling boats, but it's just another option because the forward-facing sonar casting to fish is becoming so hot. So I think you capitalizing on that is very cool. Will you be, Brad, and I haven't talked to you about this before, and I apologize, are you going to be at the Woods and Water show next weekend showing off your boats?
I will. I will be there with the Freeway Sports, and we will be there all weekend talking Angler Quest, and Jim will have a bunch of them there, and I'm looking forward to talking to people and talking Angler Quest. So, yeah, I will be there.
Excellent. And by the time folks hear this show, there will be a new Angler Quest podcast that will be online, available for you to listen to. It'll be an in-depth conversation with Brad and I about the 2026 models and the direction of Angler Quest these days. You can learn about all of those things and more on the website anglerquestpontoons.com, and Quest is Quest, anglerquestpontoons.com. A big thank you to Mr. Angler Quest. We'll take a break. When we come back, we'll wrap up this first hour talking more about the big outdoor weekend next weekend at the Imlay City Fairgrounds with Tom Campbell of Woods-n-Waternews. Then coming up in hour number 2, elk hunting in Michigan with guide Vance Gawel, and long-range .22 shooting with Scott Buttrick coming up in hour 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Caro on 2 stations, WKYO 1360 AM and WIDL 92.1 FM. You can hear us in Muskegon on WKBZ 1090 AM and in the in Newberry, WNBY 1450 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by Killer Food Plots. Michigan-based, family-owned Killer Food Plots. Company owner Rich Krazan will be at the big Woods and Water outdoor weekend next weekend in Imlay City. He will be talking about food plots. Rich is an expert there. Also, they're going to have a booth there with product and talking about, again, the food plot, the end of the food plot planting season. The website for Killer Food Plots is killerfoodplots.com. That's killerfoodplots.com. I bring up the outdoor weekend because, in my opinion, it is the single biggest outdoor event, I think, in Michigan. It like brings all outdoor enthusiasts to one central location, and the folks who make this happen are the people at Woods-n-Waternews. Tom Campbell is one of them, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Tom, things are getting close now.
We are getting excited, Mike. You got it. Absolutely. And the weather cooperated. It gave us that little bit of chill in the air to make us think fall is here. Was that not perfect?
Absolutely perfect.
Hope it holds on. That's right.
Well, you know,
so everybody,
you have seen over the years every type of weather. You've seen tremendous oppressive heat. You've seen thunderstorms that wanted to blow the place away. You've seen chilly weather, but it doesn't matter. People are going to show up.
No, it does. You're right, exactly right, Mike. And the fairgrounds is a pretty good venue now that it can handle it. We don't have the mud we used to have and all that good stuff. So, absolutely, we're looking forward to it. We're hoping whatever the weather is, we're still going to have a good outdoor weekend. So.
Why do you guys do this? Because I know it's like a 12-month quest to get ready for it. You got expense into it. You got blood, sweat, and tears into it. Why do you do it?
You got it. It's like one of those things. When we started, Mike, we couldn't stop, and we really started it. Randy Jorgensen, the publisher of Woods-n-Waternews, actually started it 39 years ago to promote Woods and Waters. It was in its infancy, and we needed to make a splash and get people excited about the new publication. And we had the fairgrounds right here in our local town, and it started, and it every year it just rolled a little bit more and a little bit more, and as the fairgrounds improved, our show improved, and 39 years later, here we are.
And now it's like it's become a thing of its own. I don't want to say it's not tied into Woods and Water, because obviously it is.
Right.
But it's almost its own entity.
Yeah, it is. It's really fantastic, and we're so blessed to have that kind of growth, and it's so blessed to have vendors, business people, like-minded business people to support us like they do, and then of course the show goers to come and share their time with us. It's very meaningful to us for sure.
So how about highlights of next weekend's show? What are people going to see?
I think the biggest thing we want your listeners to know, Mike, is we've changed our hours on Friday. We are now 3 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 o'clock. We're closing an hour earlier because we just can't light the grounds up. They're getting too big, our temporary lights. So it's a security and safety issue. So everybody be aware that we close at 8 o'clock on Friday. But Saturday, we open up at 9 and go till 7. Sunday, we open at 9 again and we go to 5. So just that little change, I want to make sure everybody realizes it. But what we're looking forward to is we've got a great lineup again of seminar speakers, and we've added one. We actually have our first female seminar speaker come in, Danielle Courier from Flawless Whitetail. She's going to provide us a lot of information. Her company has everything from habitat to scents, and she's going to concentrate and focus on working with scents and scent and for hunters in the field. So we're excited about that. That's the first for us. And of course, we've got Adam Lewis coming back again, as well as you mentioned, Killer Food Plots. Rich is coming back again to talk on food plots. And Saturday, one of our most popular programs is Steve Francis from Country Smokehouse. He puts on a believe it or not, we've seen it 30 sometimes now, but it's a field dressing demonstration of a whitetail, and he gives you so many tips and techniques and tactics to attack that, some different ideas, and then what you do once you've field dressed it. So it's very popular, and everybody loves to see that. That's on Saturday at 3 o'clock.
So seminars, Rich Krazan of Killer, just some of the people I work with. Yep. Rich Krazan of Killer Food Plots, Paul Perona of Versus Skins, Brad Dupuie of Angler Quest is going to be at the Freeway Sports booth. And a bunch of other people. I know usually the Abbas family is there. Usually Richard P. Smith comes down from the UP. I mean, the big names in the outdoor industry are at this show.
You're right. Yeah, absolutely, Mike. And then we add them in with some new people, and we of course we always have entertainment on the verge, to keep families excited and happy. And this year, we're bringing back the All-American Lumberjack Show. That'll be there Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We have the Michigan Avian Experience, which is really a fantastic show. It turned really popular too. That'll be there Saturday, Sunday. They'll bring in bald eagles. They'll bring in all kind of raptors and talk about habitat and what's happening.
All right, the website to let people know before we go. The one single website. What is it?
You got it. Outdoorweekend.net. Right?
Outdoorweekend.net. Tom Campbell, good luck. Have fun. Thanks for joining us. Outdoorweekend.net. Outdoorweekend.net. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back, Michigan elk hunting guide Vance Gawel and Scott Buttrick right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, The Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is the big guy, Mike Avery. Thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction. And welcome to hour number 2 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show, right here on the Outdoor Magazine radio network on more than 30 radio stations across this great state of Michigan. And as I always say, every week, I think the best way to listen to the show, if you can, is on your local radio station, your local AM or FM affiliate. If you can't, if your local station doesn't carry all 3 hours of the show, or if you live in some part of our state, and by that I mean southeast lower Michigan, not covered by the broadcast, and there's a reason for that, not covered by the broadcast signal, isn't it nice to know that there's another way to listen to Outdoor Magazine, and that is via the podcast. The podcast version of the radio show is exactly the same content. You will hear the same comments, the same guests, the same questions, the same answers. But it is heard somewhere other than on your local radio station. So where do you hear the podcast? You can hear it on my website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. It's on my Facebook page. It's on Amazon Music, Audible, X, formerly Twitter, LinkedIn, Apple Music, Google Play, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, Spotify, TuneIn, Stitcher, Player FM, Deezer, Odyssey, even on YouTube. I do like podcasting. I don't like the confusion it's caused, but I like the fact that podcasting makes it available to anyone to get the word out, to get the message out, to tell a story and build an audience if your content is good. I do podcasts each month for some of my advertising partners, including Killer Food Plots, Offshore Tackle, and Angler Quest Boats. Brad Dupuie, Mr. Angler Quest, was with me in the first hour of this show. When we are done recording this week's show, we will record this month's Angler Quest podcast. You can hear that at anglerquestpontoons.com, anglerquestpontoons.com. It will be uploaded by the time you hear this radio show. Regardless of where you are hearing my voice, when you are hearing my voice, thank you. So it means so very much to me. I do greatly appreciate it. Wouldn't be able to do this, certainly as long as I have, without your support. So I do appreciate that, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Isn't this an exciting time of year now? The temperatures have dropped, the humidity's dropped. It's starting to feel like fall. The hunting seasons are just around the corner. I mean, early goose starts Monday, and then you've got, the Michigan bear hunting season, and then you've got small game season, then the youth hunt, some great fall fishing. One thing I didn't mention in there, because not many people get to take part of it, take advantage of it, that's the Michigan elk season. It still amazes me to find out that some people in Michigan don't realize we have a vibrant and viable and beautiful and impressive elk herd based roughly around the Pigeon River State Forest, but it extends into private land around there. And the early season is now in progress. Vance Gawel is a Michigan elk hunting guide. In fact, in my opinion, one of the best Michigan elk hunting guides. He has hunters in the field now. He is taking a break. He's found a good cell signal, and he wants to join us. So I've asked him to join us here on this week's show to talk more about it, and he has graciously agreed. Vance, welcome. How are you?
I'm doing good. Having fun this morning.
Oh, what a great signal we have. You just made me very happy.
Yeah.
Tell me about well, let's back up a step. How did you become a Michigan elk hunting guide? What's that process? Is it a formal process or just something you end up calling yourself an elk hunting guide?
Well, it kind of used to be just called ourselves guides, but now we have to buy a guide license through the state, renew it every 3 years, have to take CPR training and all that good stuff. So it's not the Wild West anymore. Everybody is registered with the state and has a Michigan guide license, commercial guide license. So it's just a way that they can track us all. And like I said, it's not just the Wild West anymore. People saying I'm a guide. Now there's a list the DNR puts out of certified people, and just a little more control over the situation.
But not everyone who calls themselves as an elk guide lives in the area like you. Not everyone has the access to properties that you do, and I think that's two of the things right there that set you apart.
Yeah, there's a fair amount of people that have big access to private like I do, and that makes a huge difference. But and there is some guys that aren't in the area, but a lot of locals, and there are a lot of really good guides up here that spend all year just taking care and watching and following elk.
It's not necessary that somebody hire an elk hunting guide, but it sure does help your chances of success, doesn't it?
Yeah, the early season especially. I talk to people and they say, I think I want to do it myself. And I say, it's very doable. December is very doable, a lot easier to find elk sign and tracks. And a lot of guys are successful in the early season. But the benefit of a guide in the early season is private land access, because you're not allowed to go into the core, into the Pigeon River. Early season is just the perimeter of the core, just trying to control the numbers that are out of the core in farmland, and a lot of the elk are on private where we can hunt early season.
So is that the main challenge of this early season access, or is there more? Is it weather? I mean, if you get, it's nice now, but if you get a stretch of warm, hot weather, will these animals bed down and you just won't be able to find them?
Yeah, the heat is normally a serious problem this time of year. I cannot remember temperatures like for opening day yesterday and this morning, temperatures like this cool. It was 35 when we left this morning. It's great. Elk were just moving like crazy yesterday. I think really successful numbers on the first day as far as elk taken, and usually it seems like it's mid 80s, pushing 90, and everything is out of the fields, bedded down right at daybreak, and just 5 minutes before dark coming out at night if you're lucky. It's a tough hunt when it's hot. There's big animals that get heated up and they like to stay cool. So.
Have the bulls started to bugle yet?
I haven't heard any yet. It seems I never have much luck on the first 4 days of hearing them bugling. Somewhat the second 4 days, and then the last 4 days is usually a more of a rut hunt where we're bugling, cow calling, and getting them communicating back and forth with us.
Can you do that technique here in Michigan? Can you call to them like they do out west in the mountains?
Oh yeah, that's the last 4 days of the hunt. The end of September. That's primarily how we're locating cows, just getting bulls to answer us, bugle back, and then going to them. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. You call them right in.
So what is the bigger challenge, your cow hunters or your bull hunters? I mean, as far as success of taking an animal.
In my opinion, it's cows early season. They're tough. They like to keep their calves in cover and not be seen. It's much tougher. The bulls, and we're trying to shoot, and we are shooting nice big bulls, but if we've got an option starting in the morning, or we know we got cows at one place and bulls, we're going after the cows. It's a much tougher hunt.
So how many hunters do you have out right now, or do you have for this early season?
So I have a couple buddies that I work with. We all work together. So we have 6 total hunters, 3 bulls, 3 cows between the 3 of us. And that's kind of more than we wanted to take, but we always end up, somebody calls that we know, so we fit them in. In December, it'll take a lot more than that. But, I don't want to send anybody home empty-handed, and we're not going to, but it's a lot of work this early season. So, it's good work.
So how does this work? Do you put the animals to bed the night before and then go out to those fields the next morning, or are you looking for tracks across the 2 tracks, or what?
Yeah, all of that. So, for instance, yesterday was opening day. Keeping track of farms for a month and a half before I've been scouting for a long time here this summer, and get to know specific animals, as far as bulls and groups of cows. So in the evenings, I am trying to locate animals before dark for the next morning. I can tell you I slept 3 hours the first 2 nights here, last night and the night before. Then we stay out, and I will run roads, sand roads, looking for tracks, just verifying, trying to make sure I know where they're at for the morning. Go to bed, and I think I went to bed midnight last night and got up at 2:45 and got back out. made sure stuff was where it was before I went to bed, got ready, located some stuff. And for instance, this morning, right at daylight, right at shooting hours, we had a group we were going to work on. And we did.
Let's talk about that. Hang tight. Hang on to that thought, Vance. We're talking with Vance Gawel, Michigan elk hunting guy. We've got to take a break here. We will pick up that story and more when we come back. Also, I forgot to ask Vance, and I'll ask him when we come back, where to find him online. I know there's a guide service Facebook page, him and a buddy, but I can't think of the name of it, and I can't find it. So we'll ask him about that. And this whole concept of Michigan elk hunting, is it like the hunt of a lifetime? How cool is this? You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Sheboygan on Big Country Gold, WCBY, 1240 AM, 100.7 FM. You can hear us in Houghton Lake on 98.5 WUPS. And you can hear us north of the bridge in Escanaba, WCHT, 600 AM, 93.5 FM. Speaking of north of the bridge, this segment of Outdoor Magazine, that sound right there, that is the sound of my Rapid River knife clicking back open. Here it is once again. I just took it out of my pocket where it resides all the time. I'm a huge fan of Rapid River knives. Handmade by craftsmen in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, lifetime guarantee. Go to the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com. Use the promo code MikeAvery15, MikeAvery15, to get 15% off your entire order. However, you cannot use that promo code for the new Mike Avery signature knife. That knife proceeds are going to Outdoor Driven, a group designed to get first responders and veterans on outdoor adventures. So we don't want to take the profit out of that knife. We want to save it for Outdoor Driven. Everything else, use the promo code MikeAvery15, either on the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, or better yet, go to the store on US 2 just east of Rapid River. It is absolutely beautiful. Rapid River knives, I've got one in my pocket all the time. You know what I have not used my Rapid River knife for yet? Field dressing an elk. I've never gotten a Michigan elk tag. It is like the hunt of a lifetime for Michigan hunters. Vance Gawel deals with Michigan elk hunters all the time. He is a very well-respected elk hunting guide. Now, you can find Vance on Facebook. Do a search for Vance Gawel, or if you go to the DNR website, they have a list of Michigan elk hunting guides, and Vance's phone number is there. But Vance is with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. So, Vance, do you have any animals down yet?
No, we should, but it's just the way it works sometimes. Yesterday was a really good morning, and just some bullets didn't hit their mark, but that'll happen.
Well, it will happen. And, you know, people are going to make bad shots. They're going to miss animals. But from a guide's perspective, if you put an animal in front of somebody, I got to consider that a successful hunt. You did your job at that point.
Oh, yeah, we had a successful. They all had a blast. I think, you know, a lot of times it's opening day yesterday. We're waiting for legal shooting time. You know, we were waiting for 6:27. We knew where these group of 3 bulls were. The clock hits, and we go in, and they're right where they're supposed to be. And like a lot of the time, the guy is 2 minutes into this Michigan elk hunt, bull tag, never seen an elk in the woods, and here's a really, 3 big 6x6s, one really big one, and it's kind of a shock, and they get worked up, and I totally understand it. So it was a good hunt. He got away, and we had another hunter sitting on the escape route, and he went just the way they were supposed to. If we didn't get him in the first time, and the second guy didn't connect either, so we move on, and we hunted the rest of the day. Saw some elk that we let go that we didn't want to take, and spent a lot of time relocating last night. And this morning we had a cow hunt that we did, and this wasn't shooting errors or misses. They slipped out. We were making a plan to move them out there, move them to some hunters, get set up, and they slipped out a back way on us, and we were not ready for that. So they beat us today, the guides, but they won't for long. They'll trip up. So.
Well, what a thrill to finally get that coveted Michigan tag, to get out in northern Michigan and finally see an animal in front of you. What are most of your hunters using as far as a gun? What do you recommend for a Michigan elk? I mean, they're a big animal.
Yeah, I like 300 Win Mags. I've seen a lot of good things happen with that. I'm a big fan of 270s. I've never had an issue. We got a 270. We got a couple 30-06s. They have killed a bunch of elk in Michigan. And then, normally we have a 7 mag or 2. But 300 Win Mags just seem like they're incredible. Just anchor the elk right there.
And how close are you getting your hunters to these animals? What's an average length of shot, if there is such a thing?
Sometimes we can really reach out if they're capable in the farm fields. Yesterday morning, the first shot was 240 yards, but we're on tripod, steady as a rock on tripods. The 2 shots after that were about the same, and then the next gentleman, when they tried to slip out the back, his was roughly around 100 yards. So it'd be anywhere from 50 to 500 yards if we want to, but we don't take 500 yards unless people are really sure that they're capable of that.
I hadn't really thought of this before, but you described it very well. We all Michigan hunters dream of getting this elk tag. We get the tag. We think about it all summer long. We can't wait. And then we actually get out there opening morning, and 5 minutes into the hunt, there's a giant, beautiful bull elk in front of us. That would be overwhelming in some ways.
Yeah, totally understandable that you can get shook up.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
and even worse than that, we're sitting here counting down on the clock, and we're watching them from 600-700 yards away. So the poor guys are having to watch them, waiting, knowing that what's about to happen. So it's a lot of pressure.
And you have shown me pictures, preseason trail camera pictures of what I consider to be giant bull elk. And you said, no, he's not quite big enough. I mean, you are prepared enough and you have access to enough property that you're really targeting the big boys, aren't you?
We'd like to shoot big, mature bulls, 6x6s, big frames, heavy animals. That's our goal. And like I said, we passed up a 6x6 yesterday, a young one, and it's actually the pure Michigan hunter. And I said, Ray, it's up to you, but honestly, this isn't a pure Michigan bull. We're going to do better. And he said, okay, well, let's move on. So we did.
Wow. Brian Bolter, a friend of mine from church and a guy who has has property across from our lease. In fact, he came over and worked up our food plots here a couple of weeks ago. He's hunting with you right now. He told me a story. He said, I saw Vance vacate one of his hunting blinds and turn it over to a couple of older hunters. What was that about, Vance?
So midday, we went out and to bait some bear baits. I run bear baits, and it was public land piece. And this public land bear bait has probably been there 12, 13 years. It's been established. It's been around forever. And we were going in, and I saw a car parked, and I was like, that's kind of odd. You don't usually see people back here. And right down the footpath, probably 400 yards in, there was 2 older gentlemen, and I saw they had a bucket, and I said, hey, it looks like you guys are doing the same thing we are, and walked over to them, and you can tell that they're just devastated because, they're thinking we're probably got a bait right by them. And the guy says, I 14, this is my last bear. He was pushing 80, I believe. He said, I've been applying for 14 years, and he's like, I can't believe. He's like, are you right here? I said, we're about 100 yards farther. And he's like, oh, no. And I said, here's the deal. I'm going to pull my camera, and I'm going to dry this bait up, and I want you to have this bait and be successful and get this bear. There's plenty of places in state land. So we gave him my bucket of bait on the way out and said good luck and call me if you need help dragging. It's just, it seems like bear incidences in the woods, people fighting over baiting spots. It's just makes zero sense with the amount of acres are out here. So just not worth it. And I want to see everybody be successful that's out there trying. So hopefully he gets a bear. And he didn't even run a camera. I said, well, there's a couple good bears here. So keep at it. Good luck.
Whether or not he gets a bear, you made his season by doing that.
Oh, he told me, he's had bear run-ins in the past. He said, the last tag 14 years ago, he said, I've never had anybody do that. And I said, well, hopefully you'll run into a little more of this in the woods.
So you're not running bear dogs anymore, but you are still running some bear baits?
Yeah, I wasn't going to. Last year I'd planned on being my last year running baits. I don't have dogs anymore. I spend so much time with elk, and I really enjoy it, actually, at this point, more than the bears. But the Pure Michigan hunter, he actually had a cow tag last December, and he filled his cow tag with me. He's got the Pure Michigan now, and he said, I've never seen a bear. Could you bait for me? I said, yeah, we'll do this again.
Oh, my gosh. The guy had a cow tag last December, and he won the Pure Michigan hunt for a bull tag this year?
Yep.
Would you have him buy me some
back-to-back?
Would you have him buy me some lottery tickets, please?
Yeah, for sure.
Man. Where you live, though, I mean, I think about this. You're there in elk country. You see these big, beautiful, majestic animals. You have sent me pictures and video sitting on a tractor of seeing, big bears out in cornfields. You live in a beautiful area.
I'm very lucky. We were roughly about 8 minutes from my house where we started on those cows and the bull this morning, and I'm very lucky.
So obviously you are filled up with hunters for the early season. Are you booked completely for December as well?
I've got a buddy that has a few spots, and people can keep calling because I'll have, like I said, do-it-yourselfers call, and I say, why don't you try it, and then stay in contact, and when I have all my booked hunters done, we'll get a hold of you, and we'll see if we can help you get a tag or fill your tag. We do that early season, and we do that late season. I think last year by the fourth day of the late season, we had filled 8 or 9 booked tags, and then what I do the rest of the year is just run the roads and find do-it-yourselfers and say, hey, come on, let's see if we can help you out here, and just hop in the truck. So
Vance Gawel, you are one of the good guys. People appreciate what you do for them. Your success rate is very high. They can find you on Facebook, or if they go to the DNR website and look up the list of licensed Michigan elk guides, they can find your phone number there. I'll let you get back to the hunt. Thanks for everything you do, and see if you can't get Brian a big old Michigan cow elk. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. Thanks, Vance. Take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. When we come back, we're going to switch gears and talk about long-range .22 shooting. Now, you wouldn't want to use a .22 on a Michigan elk, but it does sound like fun, right? And cheap and inexpensive and just cool with Scott Buttrick here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show in Houghton Lake on the Twister 92.1 WTWS. You can hear us in Lansing on WILS 1320 AM and north of the bridge in the Sioux, WKNW 1400 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Reader Landscaping. Reader can take care of your lawn and property because it's our nature. That's your nature and our nurture. Let them create an outdoor getaway in your backyard. And fall is really the time to get a lot of work done. Some fall trimming, pruning, overseeding, aerating, coring, plugging your lawn, cleanup eventually. Just a lot of things to keep in mind, and the folks from Reader can help you out there. Check them out online at readerlandscaping.com. That's readerlandscaping.com. Don't forget about lighting, exterior lighting as well. Reader can help you out there. So many different things. so many different projects, and every time I have ever had a reader crew at my house, and there have been several, they have been hardworking, conscientious people, and I appreciate that. If somebody is coming onto my property, I want them to treat my property like I do, and the reader crews always do. They've been in business 60 years, so you know they're doing something right. ReaderLandscaping.com. Okay, so I used to work with the guy, his name is Scott Buttrick. I used to work with him many years at the Forward Corporation. Then he went and retired. And I thought, I'm never going to see Scott again. But I am, because Scott is a hardcore outdoor enthusiast. He is a hardcore shooter. I remember one time we had Paul Phillips at a Wednesday night live at the Lumberjack restaurant. And Paul, of course, one of the best extreme long-range shooters in the world. He was on the show, I think, last week. But Paul's talking about shooting big caliber guns, up to 50 cals. Well, what about for the rest of us who we look into the gun safe and we've got maybe a 22 long rifle, maybe two 22s in there, maybe multiple? I'm not saying I do, but some guys do. Wouldn't that be fun to take every man's gun and do some long-range shooting there? Well, that's what Scott Buttrick is doing. If you go to his website, precision22.net, precision22.net, you can learn more about it. But he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line, too. Hey, Scott, how have you been? How's retirement?
It's great. How are you doing, my friend?
I am doing, you know what? I couldn't be better because it's cool out. The days are getting shorter. Fall's coming. I mean, everything is just lining up.
It's our time of the year. It's perfect.
It is. So tell me about this, your affinity, your attraction to 22s and shooting 22s. Where does that come from?
Well, it's kind of a funny story. You know, I go up every October up to our cabin in the UP, bird hunting. And 2 years ago, I know you've met Greg Brown and Jeff Allen, but these are the guys I hunt with. We were just sitting around and target shooting, and Greg brings out this real fancy-looking 22, so I put a playing card on edge at, I don't know, it was about 40 yards, and the challenge was how many shots it would take to cut that card in half. We all shot and didn't touch it. Greg said, I got it. One shot, split it in half, and it's like, wow, I got to have one of those 22s. And then I found out how much that cost. They're expensive. Wow. But that's where it really started. You know, I've gotten older, and my affinity for heavy recoil and loud noises has waned somewhat, and with, you know, the cost, especially, you know, during COVID and everything, the cost of ammunition is just through the roof. You know, 22 just seemed like the way to go. And so that's how I kind of got started with it. And then I decided I'd build one rather than go out and buy one off the rack.
I remember Paul at one time was talking about delving into this area as a cheaper alternative for people who wanted to see what they could accomplish. And I think he just, you know, got sidetracked and stayed with the bigger calibers. So I am so glad to see you concentrating on this area. I mean, this is something, I think something anybody can do.
Oh, yeah. And what I found in, you know, first of all, you know, I didn't want to spend, you know, I'm retired, fixed income. I don't have $3,000-$4,000 to spend, you know, on a high-end, long-range, you know, 22 rifle. So I thought, let's see. I'm pretty handy down on the workbench if I can build a budget-friendly, and that's where the book started, 22 that would be, you know, would shoot well enough to shoot competitively. And I did. I started with a Savage Mark II as a base, and built that rifle up. And let's see, here's some average groups that rifle will do. green tag, CCI green tag, .16. That's a 5-shot group.
At what distance?
Rifle. That's at 25. Rifle match SK is 1.7. The green tag at 50 yards is .34.
Hold on.
And at 100,
yeah, go ahead real quick. 100 yards.
100 yards is .78. So sub-MOA.
Hang on, Scott. We got to talk more about this. We're talking with Scott Buttrick. You can find out more at his website, precision22.net, precision22.net. We got to take a break. When we come back, I'm turning the Ask Avery segment into an Ask Scott Buttrick segment right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Holland on WHTC. That's 1450 AM, 99.7 FM. You can hear us in Sandusky in the Thumb, WMIC, 660 AM, 95.3 FM. And north of the bridge in Manistee, WTIQ, 1490 AM, again, 95.3 FM. The Ask Avery segment is brought to you each week by the good folks at Security Credit Union. Security Credit Union loves to work with outdoors men and women, and they can help you with your next outdoor adventure. Check them out online at securitycu.org. That's securitycu.org. The way the Ask Avery segment works, usually the way it works, is this is your chance to get involved in the content of the show. You can send me an email to Mike at MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You want to know, let me know what you want to talk about, what you want to bring up. But this time around, I'm taking a little executive privilege here, and I'm turning the Ask Avery segment into an Ask Scott Buttrick segment because I think this is fascinating what he's doing with accurate shooting of 22s. You can learn more on his website, precision22.net, precision22.net. Scott, could I reach into my safe and pull out my Ruger 1022 and do this, or are we talking specially made custom rifles?
No. You can just reach right in there. Because my third book, The Budget 22 Long Rifle Build, A Guide to Precision Rimfire, is on the Ruger 1022.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, that's a shameless self-promotion. But yeah, no, let's see, what are my stats? I'm just working those up. Ruger 1022, 25 yards with green tag, .16. 50 yards, .410, and get this one, at 100 yards, .5.
No kidding.
Yeah. That's, now that, go ahead.
What do I have to do to that gun to make it shoot that accurately or just increase my skill level?
Well, the old adage, practice, but the keys I've found, especially at long range, first you got to find the ammo your gun likes. And a year ago, I tested 23 different types of ammunition and got ballistic data on everything, just to find out what my guns like the most. You need to have a good scope with a parallax adjustment. And I have an article on my website on good budget scopes, and the two I like the most are Arkin and Discovery. They're great scopes. You got to have a good stable platform. Now, I'll admit that I'm looking at my Ruger right now, and that's got a $1,000 chassis it's sitting on. I was lucky enough to get MDT to partner with me.
I thought you weren't going to spend a bunch of money on these guns.
Well, originally, how that happened is because it gets expensive, and I used an MDT chassis on my Savage, and I reached out to them to see if they'd be interested in partnering with me with a donation, and in turn they'd get some good advertising and marketing, and asked if they would send me their field chassis like I have on the other gun. What showed up was their ACC Premier chassis which was $1,000 chassis. So no, don't go out and buy one. But I'll tell you what, I love MDT stocks. The one I have on my Ruger is a $300, or on my Savage is a $300 stock, and it adjusts for length of pull, cheek rise. It's stable. It's aluminum bedded, and it's called their field stock chassis. But you need to have a decent, stock platform. But the big thing, the further out you get, and boy, Paul would attest to this one, is you got to have a good trigger. If you got a heavy trigger or a creepy trigger, it's just not going to work. I remember some of the first groups I did at 200 yards, it looked more like a shotgun blast because I was pulling the shots all over the place.
Yeah, but 200 yards with a 22?
Oh, yeah. Here, get this. You mentioned Paul. Let me give you some equivalencies. This is in my book, The Ballistics of the 22 Long Rifle Cartridge, A Comprehensive Analysis, page 41. Again, that was cheap, wasn't it?
Nope.
A 100. Hey, I wouldn't be a good marketer if I didn't.
Exactly.
This is a 100 yards, 22 long rifle versus a 308. Okay. 40 grain bullet. This is 168 grain 308. And the equivalency is 100 yards with a 22 is like shooting 250 to 300 yards ballistically with a 308. When you jump that out to 200 yards, now you're looking at an equivalence of 550 to 600 yards with a 308. So you can see where the challenge is. And that's why I love this long-range 22 long rifle.
And I love the concept of it because it's guns that everybody can afford. It's ammunition that everybody can afford. Everybody has a 22. Yep. So why not see what you can do with it? Scott Buttrick, I got to let you go. I appreciate your time, though. I'll send people to the website, precision22.net, precision22.net. There they can learn more about your books as well. You and I are going to stay in touch because I'm fascinated on this topic. We'll take a break for the top of the hour. When we come back in our second hour, a sport you don't have to be real accurate at because you're using a shotgun. That is the early Michigan goose season coming up after the break right here on Outdoor Magazine.
Time now for Michigan's #1 outdoor radio show, Mike Avery's Outdoor Magazine. Mike Avery has covered the outdoors in Michigan for more than 4 decades, and that tradition continues today. Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Jay's Sporting Goods, the Yater Insurance Group, Angler Quest Pontoons, the Forward Corporation, Security Credit Union, Offshore Tackle, Hammond Drives and Equipment, Garber Chevrolet, the West Branch Visitors Bureau, Rapid River Knife Works, and by Michigan Brand Meats. Now, here's Mike Avery.
Indeed, this is Mike Avery, the big guy. Ken Hunter, thank you for that introduction. I do appreciate it. Also appreciate you joining me this week in hour number 3 of this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network on more than 30 radio stations across our great state of Michigan. So glad to have you along with us on this Labor Day weekend. Can you believe it? How did it get to be Labor Day? But you know what? I think I'm okay with that this year. I think I'm pretty much done with summer. I'm ready to be moving on to fall, and these cooler temperatures the last few days have really gotten my attention, and I think they've got a lot of people's attention. Must be a party out in the hallway there, John. A lot of people's attention as we move into this fall hunting season. I mean, think about it. Michigan bear season just around the corner. Small game season just around the corner. The youth season just around the corner. But you know what's first on the agenda? You know what's up first? In fact, right around the corner now? The early goose season. I'm excited about that. Not because I'm an early goose season hunter. but because I'm one of those people who has a pond in the backyard who gets overrun by geese in the earlier part of the summer. You know, I used to think it was pretty cool. Oh, look at those fuzzy little goslings out in the backyard. Aren't those cute? Aren't those just cuddly? And then they grew into bigger things, which I call giant flying rats. And the amount of mess that they make, and they can really foul up an area. So the Michigan DNR years ago said, let's have an early goose season to target the local birds, the resident birds, the birds who are not coming down from the north, but birds who live here. And I'm happy for that. And I'm happy for guys like Glenn Alfieri who get out there and really target these early season geese. Glenn is with GK Calls, gkcalls.com, a Michigan-based company, and he's with us now on the Outdoor Magazine phone line. Glenn, welcome back. How have you been?
Great, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Listen, a real pleasure, and I know you and other hunters like you across the state are getting pretty excited.
We are. It's crazy how fast the summer went this year. I've got 3 kids under the age of 4 now, so it's like I'm in the mix right now, and so it's back to school is coming, and it's crazy. So, but it's always funny how it ramps up. We went on a little family vacation up to like Traverse City area. And I came home and I didn't even realize that, we were already, that following weekend was show season. And I kind of had to scramble this year. I was like, well, it came around a lot quicker than I had anticipated. But these cool temps nonetheless make it start feeling like hunting season, that's for sure.
What is show season for you, Glenn?
So the first weekend in August is when the Saginaw Bay Waterfowl Festival kicks off. And then the weekend after that, we did a show at Orion Shooting Center at Bald Mountain in Lake Orion there. And then coming up here, we have Woods and Water Outdoor Weekend, which is a good one. That's September 5th through the 7th. That's a 3-day show, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then the following weekend, September 13th and 14th, we do the Point Mulay Waterfowl Festival. So we try to hit all the Michigan shows. Just, guys want to get their calls tuned up and, pick up something new. And so we try to hit all those pretty much every year.
Well, leave yourself some time to go hunting though, right?
I know I always tell the guys, at these shows, I'm like, September is not ideal for me. Woods and Water is a good one. Just because, it's targeted at everything, but any waterfowl show in September, I always suggest moving into August because August is the buying time. September is supposed to be the hunting time.
Yeah. So tell me about GK Calls, a Michigan-based company, right?
Yep. We've been, so my dad started the company in 99. So we were selling apparel and basically my dad was a diehard upland hunter. And buddy of his got him into duck and goose hunting. My dad was already a small business owner and kind of said to himself, well, if I'm going to do this, I need to kind of find something to pay for the habit because as many duck and goose hunters know, you need a trailer or a boat and decoys and blinds and, it can be an expensive sport. And so he decided to start selling kind of retail items. So we sold decoys and ammo and other people's calls and things like that. And, did that for a really long time. And we were selling a goose call called the Giant Killer by a fellow named Todd Sabota, who was in Adrian, Michigan. And the retail side of things, it just became too competitive with big box stores and things like that. So we kind of got rid of all the retail side of things, and we really focused on the calls. And we purchased the original Giant Killer design from Todd and kind of ran with it from there, took it over. We then won the 2008 Worlds, 2010 Champion of Champions in Easton, Maryland, added a bunch of different models of duck and goose, and we're still doing it today about 26 years later.
Oh, good for you. Good for you. Waterfowl hunters as a group, I think you guys are some of the most passionate and hardcore outdoor enthusiasts that I know. Yeah,
it's absolutely, it's one of those things where it's a true passion, and it takes you to some crazy weather, and people look at you like you're going to go sit out in that.
Yeah.
I know my wife has looked at me like that before.
Yeah, the worse the weather, the bigger you guys smile.
Exactly. Yep.
How important is a good call in this early season?
It's definitely one of the top keys to success. Being able to sound realistic and providing that tone that they feel comfortable with, coming in close and looking at your decoy spread to be able to harvest effectively and efficiently is definitely a big key to success. Obviously scouting and making sure that you have a good hide is also another really important thing. But a call, you never go duck or goose hunting without a call.
Do you have a call nearby?
I do, yes.
Can you give us an example of what a goose call sounds like?
Absolutely. I don't know how good that comes over the phone. But
it comes across very well. Was that just one call?
Yes. Yep. That was our newest call that we came out with last year, called the Rumbler.
That sounded just like a flock of birds coming in.
I appreciate that.
So evidently that's the goal.
Absolutely. Yep. That's similar. I know you're a big fisherman as well. We always kind of describe it when guys are getting into it and learning, we kind of match the hatch, right? You want to do what the birds are doing. So, early season, definitely not as much calling. Your decoy spread, you want to have like the big family groups because they're still kind of flocked up. But, again, that goes into your scouting. You look at what they're doing in the field and you kind of mimic that. And then as the season goes on, birds start to get more educated. Calling will increase, especially if you start seeing, or if you're hunting migrators, you're screaming at those birds way up. And, we always say they're coming down from the heavens, which is a really fun way to hunt them too. So, but yeah, early season, less is more. And you kind of pump it up from there.
So this early season, it's kind of unique, it seems to me, and I don't want to. I don't mean this negatively at all, but I feel like you're targeting birds while they're still dumb.
Absolutely. I mean, it still can be challenging because you have so many hunters out banging around, and a lot of guys will go shoot up roosts, where a roost is, for those that don't know, is where the ducks and geese will sleep at night. So a lot of guys that are uneducated, they see a target-rich environment where they'll go hunt the roost, but then the birds don't have a safe place to sleep or live, and so it can cause, after a day or so, you're already getting into the mix, and that first hunt of the year, if you're on a good field, yeah, the birds are definitely a little bit calmer, but after that first day of volleys, it steadily increases pretty quick with as smart as they get, because they either survived it last year and they remember, oh, it's that time of year, similar to when you deer hunt, and I swear when those deer hear those first rifle shots, it changes everything.
Absolutely. We're talking with Glenn Alfieri of GK Calls, the website gkcalls.com, gkcalls.com. We got to take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine show. When we come back, I want to talk to Glenn more about this concept of the roost and, how far away should you stay? Is there a distance you want to be from that roost or what? And we'll talk about other early season goose hunting tactics, because I want every Michigan goose hunter this early season to be as absolutely effective as you possibly can be. I want you to take your 5-bird limit every day of the season, and I want you to start in my backyard. Although you can't hunt in my backyard because we're just inside the city, and that's part of the problem. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine show in Manistee on WMLQ 97.7 FM. You can hear us in St. Joe, WSJM 94.9 FM. And you can hear us also in Traverse City, WTCM 580 AM. This segment of Outdoor Magazine brought to you by the Truck Trolley. I've talked about this truck trolley now for several months. I am absolutely sold on this concept. It's like, I used to have, before I got a truck trolley, I had what my son James calls an old man stick. And that is a hook on the end of a broom handle that I cut off that I could reach way up over the tailgate, way up into the front of my bed and pull any items that had slid forward back so I could grab them. It's funny. James used to call that an old man stick. And I saw the other day, now he's got an old man stick. I don't need one now because I have a truck trolley. And this is a portable, removable, a very strong plastic chassis on wheels that you can put stuff into your truck bed and then roll it out so you can reach it. And the thing of it is, I'm thinking, well, there are going to be times I'm going to want to take this out. Say if I want to haul gravel or stone, or we actually ran into this situation last week. I had to take a piece of furniture downstate, and I didn't want it on the rolling truck trolley. So I thought, how hard is this going to be to get out? You know what? It took me about 5 minutes. Well, it didn't even take me that long. There's two straps. You just unhook and you pull it out, you fold it up, and you lean it into the garage against the wall. And then when it's time to put it back in, it's just equally as fast. I'm not seeing a downside to the truck trolley at all. Michigan-based, family-owned. You know I love that. The website, trucktrolley.com. That's trucktrolley.com. I have a general love for Michigan-based, family-owned, outdoor-related companies. I think this kinship of being in Michigan, this kinship of loving the outdoors, this kinship of being small business people and trying to make a difference in the outdoor world is honorable. That's the way I look at the folks of GK Calls, gkcalls.com. Now, I am not a waterfowl hunter, so I got to be honest, I don't use their products, but if I was, I would seek out GK Calls, gkcalls.com. Glenn Alfieri is with GK Calls. His dad started the company, what do you say, Glenn, 26 years ago now?
Yep, 26 years, yep.
Well, congratulations on, number one, not just staying in business, but growing the business, winning those goose calling titles. Do you guys make duck calls as well, or is it all goose?
Nope, we make duck calls as well.
What is your favorite? I mean, as a waterfowl hunter, when you're out there, do you target whatever comes in, or are there days you go out and say, we are goose hunting today, or we are duck hunting today? How's that work?
My favorite thing to hunt would be hunting mallards in a cut cornfield. Those are by far my favorite hunts that I've ever had. But we don't get that a lot in Michigan. So, we do go to Canada quite a bit. We have a lot of good friends over there just because of the hunting business. But honestly, these days, I've been obviously very fortunate to be able to hunt in some really great spots and, because of the business. And my biggest joy now is I'm looking forward to getting my son out. I have two sons and a daughter. 4.5 is my oldest, so he'll maybe come out this year if the weather's right, and also watching my dog get retrieves. So I like taking out young hunters nowadays, and honestly, just watching my dog work and seeing the joy of others now is kind of my favorite thing.
I hear this from waterfowl hunters a lot, that, unlike deer hunting, where if you try to take your 4-year-old son out, you'd have to be so quiet and so still, and it's so hard for those little guys to be like that. You take him out in the duck blind, he's hidden a little bit. He can move around a little bit, at least until the birds come in. He can talk. You can have a conversation. That camaraderie, that ability to interact is part of the appeal of waterfowl hunting, isn't it?
100%. Being able to, cook breakfast and talk in between the geese, ducks coming in, it definitely adds to the lore of it for sure.
You talked in the first segment about the roost. Now, it's not like a roost that turkeys would use up in trees, but the roost is a pond or water or wherever the birds are staying overnight. That's kind of sacred ground, right? You want to stay away from that?
Yeah, we definitely, what we try to do is, we kind of look at that as their home base, their safe haven, their sanctuary. And our goal as hunters and what we try to do is we try to scout those birds. Now, you can sit right on the roost and watch them fly out and follow them right to where their feed is. And, the goal is either get permission on where they're landing, where they're feeding, or get permission on that flight line in between the roost and the feed, and try to, convince them with your GK call to come to, to the new spot. But if you go in and you hunt a roost, it can really ruin it. It can ruin the area. If there's not another water source or area that they feel comfortable, that whole flock of birds will, move farther south and go find somewhere else to find, make their sanctuary. So we try to stay at least a half mile to full mile away. And the other thing that I'll try and do is make sure that the gunshots aren't aimed back at the roost. Even from a half mile away, it can be loud. If you've got 5 guys shooting 3 shots off a piece, it can get pretty loud. So those birds, and that's the other thing is typically you'll see the first bird come out. It'll be a single or a pair of geese will come, we always call them scout birds. And if you fire off a big volley at that whole pond, if there's 100 birds on there, all those birds can get up at once and you're never going to see them again. And, it's better to have a pair, 2 pairs come in at a time. It's a lot easier to pick them off that way than try to convince, 100 birds that are scared that just got up off the roost to come into the spread.
I don't think I give geese the credit I should. I'm judging them based on what I see at the pond behind the house during the summertime. But when I hear you talk about scout birds and how they get gun shy, and they're actually, I think, maybe a smarter critter than I think they are.
Yeah, they're definitely frustrating when they're, pooping on the golf greens and then, in your backyard, and you spray them with a hose and they come right back and all those things. It's definitely frustrating. And, you see them walk across the road right into traffic. You think, well, these would be pretty easy to hunt, but being pretty efficient hunter, I like to think of myself just being able to, been doing it since I was really young. I still go out and have days where you're scratching your head and say, why didn't we get any, or why did we only get a couple? Why didn't they want to work? And I think that's why it's fun too, because you kind of have to keep reinventing the wheel. And, there's things like, back in the day, what was really popular are layout blinds. And then I say in the last 5, 6, 7 years, A-frame blinds really got popular because they're a lot less work. You're not laying on your back. They're a lot more comfortable to lay in. So those got popular, but at the same time, you have to watch your shadow and you got to make sure that you're setting up your hide better, make sure that the top's covered. So there's a lot of strategies that go into it that, when you're looking at those geese in your backyard, you don't think about it, but they do get pretty smart.
Geese must have real good eyesight, because I hear this from waterfowl hunters all the time. It's like, don't move or make sure you blend in when you've got birds coming in. They must really be able to see well.
They can pick you out for sure. And they just, little imperfections where, someone forgot their Yeti coffee mug outside the blind. You're calling in this flock and they come into 70 yards and all of a sudden they flare and you're like, what went wrong there? Everybody was down and everybody was good. And then you go out and look around the blind and you see that silver Yeti sitting out there, or a garbage bag, or someone brought their little Debbies out and they forgot to put them inside the blind or something like that. And it's happened, so many times, and you always try to go out there and look around and figure out what's going on. And more times than not, it's just something silly like that they picked off from a long ways away.
So you mentioned 70 yards. Is that like the magic number? If you get them inside 70, they're going to commit and land, or is that an oversimplification?
Yeah, I would say there's really no magic number, but I mean, when they're, feet down, we call it on the deck, gliding in, you feel pretty comfortable. So I would say they start setting pretty good up at, 70, 80 yards and start gliding in, without thinking much of it. Like, they're pretty committed. But again, I've had them, come into 50 yards and, they get to the edge of the spread and they see something and they booger out of there pretty quick. So it's, again, going back to, it's really important to have that good hide and, make it look realistic and blend in. And, I said earlier that it's an expensive sport to get into, but there are ways to, do it on a budget as well. If you have a good tree line and a good field and, you can borrow some of grandpa's or dad's decoys, you can get into it, but it's when you want to get more serious and, kind of travel and things like that is where it gets pricey.
Well, you know what? That's the case with all of our outdoor passions. We can get into it inexpensively and casually, or we can jump in with both feet and spend as much as we pay on our mortgage. It's a matter of what you want to do.
Absolutely.
What distance do you start to shoot the birds at? Do you want them 10 yards in your face, or do you need them a little bit farther out so you don't bust them up too bad? Or, how do you know when to start pulling the trigger?
Sure. Again, feet down on the deck. We like to see the feet. We like to see them gliding in. So we'll set up our decoys, so we know kind of yardages where they're at. We don't like to shoot out farther than, 35 yards because, by the time, I want them on my, on the bootstraps as much as you can because you're doing it right if you're hiding well and they want to land right on you. Because by the time that you call the shot, we'll say, take them or kill them or whatever you want to say, everybody pops up. The first reaction from those birds are, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
And, so by the time you pop up, they're going to pop up 5 yards behind that. So, if they're landing at 15 yards and you pop up, then they're at 20, 25, I think that's a real ethical shot. Some of the guys out there nowadays, they, with the new shot technology and new chokes, they feel comfortable a little bit further out. But the closer I can get them in where, you're not wounding birds and, you got a bunch of cripples, flying around everywhere, that, didn't take a good ethical shot, I think the better it is for to have them nice and close.
Glenn Alfieri of GK Calls, I appreciate your time. Have a great season. Good luck to you, but most of all, have fun. I know you will. The website, gkcalls.com. That's gkcalls.com. We'll take a break here in the Outdoor Magazine Show. A couple of more things I want to talk about, and then, of course, we will wrap it all up with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. That's coming up yet right here on Outdoor Magazine. You can hear the Outdoor Magazine Show on a whole bunch of stations across the state of Michigan, including WIOS and Tawas. 1480 AM, 106.9 FM. You can hear us twice each weekend on WIOS. You know where else you can hear us twice each weekend? That's on WSGW in Saginaw. 790 AM, 100.5 FM. I'm in the studios of WSGW right now, but as you know, for these 3 hours, I call this little corner of the building the Outdoor Magazine Studio. So far, I've been able to get away with it. The only guy who fights me on this is Jonathan Dent. He's like, Avery, that is actually my studio. You're encroaching on my territory. And you know what? He's right. He's right. But he's like a young guy. He's almost a newbie here. So I'm even though I'm not employed by SGW, I'm kind of throwing my weight around here, and I'm saying, Dent, this is mine for these 3 hours. And he's smiling right now. He's like, yeah, that's okay. John does a wonderful job. I appreciate his help so much. I would not be able to do this show without the help of Jonathan Dent, Charlie Rude. These guys mean a lot to me. And, John, I appreciate that so very much. This segment of Outdoor Magazine is brought to you by Hammond Drives and Equipment. Now, you heard the spot here. If you're a farmer, a contractor, a maintenance supervisor, if you need an electric motor, Hammond Drives and Equipment can help you out. 30 years in business, a warehouse full of electric motors, from the small ones all the way up to 150 horsepower, single three-phase, efficient washdown, stainless steel, explosion-proof, foot-mounted C-frame, international voltages, larger horsepowers if you need them. They're in Freeland. Stop by the showroom on M47 just north of town, or give them a call at 989-695-2239, or go to their website, HammondEQP.com. Michigan-based, family-owned company, and you know I love that. Okay, I was talking earlier about some things I've got coming up here. The 5th of September, I will be at the Forward Corporation facility in West Branch as part of their anniversary celebration. So I hope you get a chance to check that out. Stop by and say hi if you want. That would be great. And then the weekend of the 20th, Jay's anniversary sale. They've been in business 54 years. I will be at the Claire store late morning on that Saturday. I think it's the 20th. I will be there with Chris Durson of Rapid River Knives and also Andrew Cumtus of Outdoor Driven. And the plan is right now we're going to present a check to Andrew, the first installment or the first check from the proceeds from the Mike Avery signature Rapid River knife. It is going to Outdoor Driven, so that's going to be very, very cool. Andrew is also joining us on the 24th in West Branch for another Wednesday Night Live at the Forward Corporation Lumberjack Restaurant. Special guest Andrew Cumtus, also Lance Valentine of the Walleye Zone is going to be with us. Some of my advertising partners will be there as well. We're actually going to give away one of the Mike Avery signature Rapid River knives that night to somebody joining us. If you would like to join us for a chance at that knife, some of our other prizes and giveaways, and just a really, really good meal, call for reservations, 989-343-0892, 989-343-0892. These are always a great time. It's so nice to get together with people and just, a like-minded group of people having a good meal, talking about the outdoors. We really have a good time at these, 989-343-0892. If you would like to join us, speaking of that Rapid River knife, if you use the new promo code Mike Avery 15, that's Mike Avery 15, that's Mike Avery 15, you can get 15% off your order at Rapid River, either on the website, rapidriverknifeworks.com, or if you go to the showroom on US 2 just east of Rapid River. The one thing you cannot use that promo code for is the Avery signature knife, because we don't want to cut the profits out of the top of this thing. We want that money to go to Outdoor Driven. Chris Durson at Rapid River is not making any money on this knife. Mike Avery is not making any money on this knife. We did this project to make money for Outdoor Driven, and that's what we want to do. What else? Labor Day weekend. I don't know. It always comes around so fast, but you know what? By the time Labor Day weekend gets here, I'm usually ready for it. This year in particular, I am more than ready for it. I got to be honest. I wasn't much of a fan of this summer. I just felt like I was a little... it started so late. And I go back to, my granddaughter Addison's softball games. We sat at more softball games wearing a winter coat than we did shorts. So it got off to a late start. And then when it came in with such a vengeance. I just feel like this summer was just the hot, oppressively muggy weather. I feel like we had more of it than usual. I feel like it was 140 degrees a couple of those days. Obviously it wasn't, but that's what it felt like. I don't like those days. I'm glad that that weather pattern has been broken. We're now getting some wonderful, beautiful, cooler temps, and I am really looking forward to the fall. Really looking forward to this fall. We'll take a break here. When we come back, we're going to wrap it all up with Wild Game Chef Extraordinaire. Just a reminder, my name is Mike Avery. This show is called Outdoor Magazine. My website is MikeAveryOutdoors.com. That's MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address is Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. I want to hear from you. What's on your mind? What are you thinking about? What do you like? What don't you like? Hey, if you got some pictures, send me your pictures. I will post them on the Facebook page. Just share them with the world. Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. Welcome back to Outdoor Magazine. Do appreciate you being along with us. If you are a new listener to the show, thank you very much. Means a lot to me. If you are a long-time listener, that means a lot to me as well. Thank you for your loyalty. If you've been with us before, you know that we wrap up each week's show with wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar. This week is no exception. Chef, how was your week, buddy? How have you been?
Real good. We tried to go salmon fishing in Manistee last Sunday, and we got blowed off the water.
Oh, it was blowing hard all last weekend, wasn't it?
Oh, my gosh, it was crazy.
Are you going to try to work in another?
Try again.
You're going to try again. Okay, excellent, excellent. Well, listen, you bring up salmon. How about a salmon recipe?
How about a salmon with dill?
Ooh, that's perfect.
We used to sell this at Oscar and Joey's, and it was one of the better sellers of all times. I'll tell you what, people love salmon and they love dill.
Well, let's hear it.
You need about 4 8-ounce boneless pieces of meat per person. You need an ounce or so of gin. It's a kind of an optional, but it really adds a lot of flavor to it. A couple of beaten up eggs, juice of a lemon, horseradish to taste, a 1/4 teaspoon of dill weed, dried, or you can use fresh, whichever you prefer. Both of them work equally as well. 2 to 3 cloves of garlic chopped up fine, a half a bunch of green onions chopped up fine, a medium onion sliced thin, a green pepper sliced thin, and you could put cucumber in this or leave it out. It's a personal preference. We used to sell it with the cucumber. 2 ounces of dry white wine, 3/4 of a jar of chicken gravy, olive oil to saute, and a couple of tablespoons of sour cream and flour. So you're going to dredge the fish in flour, then in the beaten up eggs in a hot pan with a small amount of olive oil, brown on both sides, remove to a casserole. So you're going to put this in the oven. You're going to add the onion, the pepper, the garlic, and saute slowly for a minute or two just to break the flavor loose. Flambe with the gin away from the stove hood. Add the lemon, horseradish, green onions, dill, the gravy, white wine, and simmer for about 5 minutes. Kind of thicken it up. The sour cream will help thicken it up too. And add the fish. And you're going to pour this over the top of the fish in the casserole. And you're going to put it in a 350-degree oven. But first you're going to put the small dollops of sour cream all around. So once it starts to boil, it's going to kind of emulsify in. And then you can serve this with a fluffy rice or a buttered noodles in a 350-degree oven. 5 to 7 minutes is all it's going to take. It's done. It's a great dish.
I remember this one. And I'm thinking this time of year, Dave, people are, for the most part, still out in the big lake. They're chasing silver-colored fish. As those fish come up the rivers, they get darker, and the color of the meat and the texture changes. How late into the season would you eat these fish that are in the rivers? We've got a while yet, don't we?
You know, a lot of people might use the later one. Yeah, we do have a while. A lot of people might can the ones that are a little darker, you know. That might be a great way to do it.
Is canning and pickling the same thing?
No. Canning would be like if you had, say a can of tuna, you know, and pickling is different. It's got vinegar in it.
Are those both options for storing fish?
Oh, heck yeah. Man, there's nothing better than pickled salmon sitting in a deer blind.
I don't know if I've ever heard you do that recipe, but I actually got a request from a guy the other day. He said, can you ask Dave if he's got a pickled fish recipe? Do you have that? Could you come up with one?
No, but I'll come up with one.
Could we do it next week?
Yep.
Oh, that would be great. That would make me very happy. Hey, something else I wanted to follow up with you on real quick. It is elk hunting season. And people, I didn't even know this. You know, I thought venison was only whitetail, but venison is also moose and elk, isn't it?
And caribou.
Caribou?
Any of the hooved animals like that, their meat is called venison.
So would you treat them all the same way, or would you treat a whitetail differently than you would treat a moose?
A moose has got much more tender meat, and it's more mild, and it's finer grained. So I would say you treat it almost exactly alike. But if you got a moose, you're going to have some meat to experiment with.
You sure are. The best wild game, the best venison I've ever had was moose at a whitetail camp up in Alberta. And man, the cook there was, she was an old farm lady, and she cooked for us hunters like she was cooking for farmhands, and it was ridiculously good, Dave.
Oh, moose to me is one of the very fine. Like I said, it's fine grained, and it's much more tender, and it's got a milder flavor to me. You know, as big as they are, it's a little bit different.
David, as you can tell, the show... show's wrapping up. Have a good week, buddy. We will look forward to that pickled fish recipe next time, and you have a great week. Wild game chef extraordinaire Dixie Dave Minar, a big part of the Outdoor Magazine show, as are you. If you weren't listening, there'd be no reason to do this show, and there'd be no reason for me to come into the studios. And there'd be no reason for me to see John Dent or Charlie Root or anybody else here. And then I would be really lonely. Again, my name is Mike Avery. This is Outdoor Magazine. My website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. My email address, Mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com.